All right, good evening, everyone. I'll now call the supplemental meeting of the Owen County Advisory Plan Commission to order. Our first order of business would be the pledge. If everyone please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Susan, roll call, please.
Amy Casebeer. Bob Curry.
Here.
Amy Meyer. Here. Kenneth Sebastian.
Here.
Bill Purcell.
Here.
Norm Warner.
Here.
Chad Van Ryan.
Here.
Donna McIntyre. Here. Mike Swafford.
Here.
Thank you. We have no minutes since this is a supplemental meeting. The only thing we have on the agenda is old business, the Owen County redevelopment resolution. Before we do that, I'd like to introduce a couple of people in the room. Mr. Meeks is with Barnes & Thornburg, and he's the lawyer for RDC, correct? And then Craig Kaufman from the RDC is also here. I know at the last meeting we had some questions for probably both of these guys. I spoke to Mr. Meeks just a little bit about what I was wanting to know, and so feel free to ask them the questions. I did ask if he would go through what we talked about, so for our benefit, so that everyone would be on the same page when he got here tonight. So I'm going to let him speak first, and then we'll continue on with old business, okay? So, Mr. Meeks.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me at the meeting. So I understand that last week this resolution came as a bit of a surprise, and I think maybe doubly a surprise because this resolution arises under Section 14 of Title 36, Chapter 7 of the Indiana Code. And you're used to 36.7.4, which is the local planning and zoning section of the code. And this resolution is an ask coming to you under the Redevelopment Commission statute. So sort of a separate set of legal authority than you're ordinarily operating under. The Redevelopment Commission is proposing to acquire a piece of property in Spencer. And the statutory authority under which the Redevelopment Commission is able to acquire real property in an arm's length transaction requires that they identify that piece of property in the economic development plan for an economic development area. The Redevelopment Commission's sort of primary purpose, generally, is to oversee economic development areas in the county. And they have certain tools that they can use to facilitate the redevelopment of those economic development areas and to provide public, or assist with the provision of public services in or serving those economic development areas. So the county only has one economic development area. It's the State Road 43 corridor economic development area. And so what the Redevelopment Commission has done is they've adopted what's called a declaratory resolution, which is a proposal to amend the declaratory resolution, the original resolution from 2012, which I have here, establishing the State Road 43 corridor economic development area. So, and as I said, they're acting under their authority to try to acquire a piece of property, and the first step in that process is to identify that property for acquisition in their plan for their area. Anytime that they make an amendment to the plan for their area, there are three kind of following approval steps that follow their decision to try to make that change. The first is that it comes before this body under Indiana Code 36.7.14.16. And what that statute provides is that the Plan Commission will make a determination on whether the proposed amendment to the economic development plan for the economic development area is in accord with the comprehensive plan for the county. So you guys, under your 36.7.4 authority, have established a comprehensive plan for the county. And the Redevelopment Commission is asking whether their proposal to acquire this piece of property is in line with that plan. And then if it is in line with that plan, for your sign-off to move on to the next approval step, which is the consideration of their proposed amendment to their plan by the Board of Commissioners. If the Board of Commissioners approve their proposed change to their plan, they publish a notice in the newspaper, and then there is a public hearing on that proposed amendment. The broader context as to why the Redevelopment Commission wants to acquire this piece of property is that it is proposed as a new site for a future jail for the county. And parallel to the process that the Redevelopment Commission is going through that has brought them in front of the Plan Commission is a process to identify a piece of property owned by the county for disposition. And so the ultimate objective is that the county has a piece of property that the property owner of this jail site would like to own, and he's going to give this piece of property for the jail site in exchange for a portion of the county's property. And actually, they're both a portion. So it's not, there's a larger parcel kind of in both pieces, and a piece of both is going to change hands. So the county gets a jail site that has, that is close to town and has the site infrastructure for a jail facility, sewer and water. The sewer needs to be run out, but it's very close and there's accessible water. And then what they're going to lose is a piece of county property that is difficult to develop, but interested, but this gentleman is interested in it for its developability. So it's a strange statutory ask where it's not sort of in your normal 3674 line of work. And as I noted, the economic development area itself was set up in 2012, and it's only amended one time that I can tell to set up a second allocation area. And so, probably the last time the Redevelopment Commission came before the Plan Commission for a determination about an amendment to their economic development plan was before I was at Barnes and Thornburg and before anybody here was on the Plan Commission, quite possibly, because it may have been as many as like 10 years ago. So I understand why there was some confusion about what the ask was, but it's that very specific statutory ask about whether the Redevelopment Commission's acquisition of this piece of property is or is not in line with the comprehensive plan for the county.
So, and I'm just asking because I don't know, what is, Craig, where does your group come in to this? Because he's talking about Economic Development Commission. You're the Redevelopment Commission, right?
No, the Redevelopment Commission oversees economic development areas.
Okay.
So it is the Redevelopment Commission's lane, if you will.
So Economic Development Commission and Redevelopment Commission, same body?
They are separate bodies. I don't even know if Owen County has an Economic Development Commission. Some counties do. Okay, we do.
We have an EDC. The way you look at that is our EDC corporation, which is joined with the chamber, the Owen County Redevelopment Commission is where I would say economic development makes the bridge between government and that EDC entity whenever they're doing something. They don't have the governmental authority to do anything. I'm actually been on this commission since 2012 when we started it, which it went back to when we extended sewer across the river. And we found that we had to have a redevelopment commission to get through that. At the time, I was with EDC, and I'm still with EDC. So I've served on this commission since then because we needed that body to legally do these things. And of course, you may remember back then, that's when we arranged for the bond with Cook to get the sewer across up to where the Hoosier Energy site is now, and then we expanded to the next site where Seven Oaks is. So we made some progress with that. And this is probably one of the most major things we've had since all that, to take a look at something else for Owen County. And I can tell you where we're at in this process. Everything you're doing here, and I asked Dustin to verify this at our meeting, if you decide to approve this, it doesn't assure it's going to happen. It just paves the way for approval if, after we've done our due diligence, decide that this makes sense. And we're still going to have a public hearing before anything's final. We're still researching some issues on that property. We're taking a look at what's it going to cost to get sewer out there, environmental, is the site itself the kind of site that's suitable for building a jail? We want to have these answers before we go to that public hearing so we can answer the questions.
Right. So, and that was one of the questions I had tonight, so it sounds like the feasibility study, or whatever they had called it, that's still not back yet, right?
No.
But it is
We
out to be
even
done?
had questions on these appraisals.
Okay,
So we haven't, all this does is line things up, so when the time comes, we can move forward.
right.
If we waited till later, then it just holds up the process even more. But I made that clear that approval of these things doesn't mean it's going to be a stamp that it's going to happen. We have to get these questions answered. There's scheduled to be a public hearing in September, which we're going to hold that at the high school auditorium in the evening, so we can have all the public there that wants to be there with parking. We may have to move that meeting back if we're not happy with the answers. I said, well, we don't have to stick with the timetable. We want to do this right. That's very important to all of us on the commission.
And I guess I would just note about the process that the process to approve the acquisition of the property requires at a minimum, two RDC meetings, a plan commission meeting and a commissioners meeting, which can take, more than a month. And the disposition of the property on that side of the transaction requires an approval process that needs 2 or more redevelopment commission meetings and a 30-day waiting period. So the reason to go through this process to set the county up to make a decision about the purchase when it's time is that it does take a significant quantity of time to get through all of the approvals, so that the county can be in a position to make that decision when it's time.
Anybody else got anything?
Have we got can we have the comprehensive plan map brought up? Because we're asking that to be
Right, so.
in line with that, so
Do we
we
have the comprehensive plan? How is that property zoned? I know we gave them a variance, use variance, but what's the actual zoning of that?
So currently, the zoning for the entire, even Rogers Group and all that property out there is agricultural. So anything that happens out there would have to be rezoned.
Right, so I guess that's, one of my questions is, if we have to rezone it,
You see what I'm saying? We would be the body that would have to rezone that.
right.
So here we are,
You're asking us if it aligns with the comprehensive
Right.
plan, and I'm not sure that it does
It-
without
it does it with the
amending that.
current zoning for sure.
Well, and, okay, so the question, right, and you have to look at the plan kind of in the broader context, right? So, quite often, different parcels will get rezoned to different classifications because a particular site is right for a particular use. And here, currently, it's zoned as agricultural, and the county will have to go through the process, right, to attempt to get that property rezoned for a future use. But the question, I think, before the Plan Commission tonight is, in the context of the entire plan, presuming that that process was brought forward for you, do you consider this parcel unsuitable for a future rezoning and use as the jail property?
So you're telling me where Wender's had a quarry?
Yes.
Now, So salt mill,
Yes.
sorting area or whatever. Is agriculture, why wasn't, I mean, before we had planning and zoning, that was a commercial site.
I don't know, it is
So
all
it's an oversight
agricultural.
to begin with, I mean, right now it's in violation technically.
Well,
Yes,
Well, but they do have a conditional use to
They-
do the
they-
log yard on
yes.
there.
but
So
if,
they did come to the BZA and
Right.
ask for a conditional use to use that because they were aware that it was agricultural. So,
so what is the, and I'm just asking because it's important to ask, what is the situation on the 9 point whatever acres that you're proposing as the jail site with the mineral extraction? Has that parcel been cut out of the other piece yet? Is it its own parcel yet? And the reason I ask is because I know mineral extraction is still in play on the rest of the property, correct?
it is not, no.
Oh, I thought they said at the last meeting that
It is.
Rogers Group still owned the mineral rights.
Rogers Group still owns the property, but to do mineral extraction, they would have to rezone it.
Because it's agricultural.
Yes. And there, in the comprehensive plan, it shows that that is mineral extraction. So,
What, the property that's in question here that they're
well,
asking about?
that area,
Right.
that area, it's on the label,
So-
it says mineral extraction.
On the comprehensive plan, we set it aside as mineral extraction, but it's still
extraction, that's
zoned
what I-
agricultural.
Right.
And that's like, okay, that'll have to be fixed, obviously, at some point.
And that's one of my questions. I mean, if we were to, approve that, so you could go forward, at some point, that's going to have to be changed. And I don't know if you're putting the horse before the cart.
No, so you are able, right? So I guess you have the authority to determine, right, in the Plan Commission has the authority to determine in the broad context of the plan whether this particular use for this parcel would in the future be in accord with your comprehensive plan for the county. And additionally, here, what we're approving is actually just the Redevelopment Commission's ownership of that parcel, not even its future use as a jail. And I guess to that point, you get sort of a second bite of the apple in terms of your future determination whether or not you would want to zone this parcel for that institutional use. So while, right, we all expect that the future use, right, that future ask is going to be made, here, it's actually about is the Redevelopment Commission's ownership of this currently agriculturally zoned parcel in line or not in line with the comprehensive plan for the county.
And not to be confused, all we're going to own right now is the property, the county's relaying to us the property they already own on Franklin that's being considered for the swap. We wouldn't officially own that property by the quarry unless the swap went through. So you really wouldn't want to change your zoning until we got there, but you certainly do want to think about that now. Do you all look at that site as a good site for the jail? And that's kind of what's gotten us all here. I was talking with Sheriff Ryan, and I won't speak too much for him, but I've been told it's going to take at least 8 acres for this new jail site to have room to improve. This is 10.5. The current sites that for the jail has isn't big enough. And there's a lot of other costs that we're considering. If they were to try to do something at the current site, the costs are very prohibitive, and I would let Sheriff Ryan speak to that. We're trying to consider all these factors as we look at this, even to the point of are there any other properties we should be considering in this process? This just so happens to be the one that's been proposed for the swap.
It doesn't mean we have to go with it, though.
No, it doesn't.
And to underscore about that the current zoning of that property is not necessarily impactful on your determination about whether or not this possible future use for the parcel could be appropriate under the plan for the county. Often, right, almost always actually, when a redevelopment commission is either setting forth an economic development plan for an economic development area or they are amending their plan, they are setting out a proposed kind of change in use in an area, right? Because most of the redevelopment commission's powers are aimed at addressing either a lack of public improvements for sort of underdeveloped areas or addressing blight. So quite frequently, when the redevelopment commission is targeting an area of the county for action, and sort of using this process, right, when plan commissions are often considering this, they're considering an area that is one way, and the redevelopment commission is casting the possibility that it could be used a different way. And here, it's zoned agriculturally, but the redevelopment commission is simply identifying that they would like to acquire the parcel because it has possible advantageous use to the county to provide services that would benefit the county large.
I asked Susan this morning, did you get that to compare the tax?
I could not get that information because I transferred it over to the assessor's office.
Because we got 93 acres that is tax exempt. 10 acres, whatever it is paying taxes. I think whenever, tax-wise, eventually that 93 acres is going to generate more money for the county than the 9.
I guess, and thank you for kind of clarifying for me. The question tonight is not whether it is zoned properly, because it's not. It's more to get the next step in the process approved. But these are things that we have to think about, because as currently laid out, it does not follow the comprehensive plan as written. Now, we all know that that's an application away from maybe being changed, which we will see eventually, and that would be our other opportunity then to control this situation if need be. But, do you guys have anything else for Craig or for Mr. Meeks before I open it up?
I suppose you'll probably talk with Rogers to see what their plans are with that surrounding property?
Well, my understanding was the mining is done. The 10.5 acres we're looking at has not been mined. It's just a flat, unmined area that appears to be suitable for putting the gel off of the entranceway coming in. It's on the southern part, right off the entranceway. So far it looks pretty suitable. We're just asking questions about, is it really suitable?
Right. And I mean, that'd be, I guess it's out of my hands, but if we did that and say you decided to put the jail there, and Rogers decided to do something a little bit later with that mining property, is it gonna be suitable then?
I think they're gonna have some problems with that. You've got to read a housing unit right behind there and a lot of different issues.
I'm curious.
I was told that they didn't have any more rights to do anything. That's something we can certainly verify. It's a good question.
That has to be vetted and made sure. The other question that I had, and then if nobody else has got anything, we'll open up to public. The road going in there, I've heard that it's gonna be given to the county, deed of the county, I don't know what it's called, bequeathed to the county, whatever.
I think dedicated, but.
Yeah, dedicated. So here's my concern. We know that there's gonna be logging trucks going in and out of there. And that road will then fall under the purview of the commissioners and the highway department. Have we, and Bob, you're a commissioner, so I'll put it on you, have we thought about what kind of upkeep that road's gonna require, or maybe an upgrade to begin with, so that we don't have these issues as trucks are coming in and out of there? Because there's gonna be the jail traffic, which I assume is gonna be minimal, but you're gonna have some log trucks going in and out of there. There's some houses back there, right, that use that access road, correct? So I would just like someone to maybe put some thought into that, whether it needs a deeper base, a thicker cap, wider, because if not, then you're gonna get what I got driving into town every day. You're gonna get potholes and edges of the road that are peeling away.
I would say the base of that road is probably as good as any road.
Well, I would think.
They hauled rock out of there, and they had the rock to fix it right.
Right. Well, I mean, and it may not need anything, I'm just asking the question because I don't know the answer.
Scott lives back there.
Huh?
Scott lives back there. Scott Winters.
Yeah.
So is that road his? Is that road, does that belong?
Well, I mean, if, the concern is it's gonna become the county's road to maintain. Right? Correct?
Currently, it is owned by Robert Menders,
Right.
so.
So what's up with that?
Long-term, though, it's gonna become the county's road, correct? I would assume, I mean, maybe not, I don't know.
That's a good question, because actually you'd just be going into the jail, and Winters would have his back in there. Now, if they want to log on back in the property, and the jail's in the road, I think they'd have to find another way. I mean, sorry.
To do their logging.
That may be a question somebody wants to get answered somewhere during this process.
So you're talking about the entryway that currently goes to the quarry property. Is
Yeah,
there going to
I
be an
mean-
issue with logging in there
And it's
afterward?
it's privately owned.
Right.
Right. So that's, it's private drive right now, and I know if it was my private drive and it's paved and it is in good shape, I'd like it to stay that way. I wouldn't want it destroyed. And that's neither here nor there. That's just a question that needs to be answered, I think, for all of us.
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, if it becomes a county road, it's our dollars that are fixing it. So we need to remember that. That doesn't have a bearing on
No,
this.
I
I'm
don't say
just,
it really does.
Well, these are good questions.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see an answer to that
In
at
this
some
whole
point.
process, I've tried to make it very open to get some
Right.
feedback if people have questions that need to be answered.
Well,
I look at this as a team project.
Right, and I'm sure we'll get some more here when we open up the public, so, Commission, you guys got anything else for either one of these guys before I we bring the public in?
I don't have it.
Chad, you good? Amy? Bill? Ken? Bob, you ain't got nothing?
I see nothing wrong with it, so.
Okay. All right, so, thank you, Craig.
Consideration.
Mr. Meeks.
And I apologize, we didn't have someone here last week. I think everyone assumed someone was going to be here, and we were wrong about who that was going to be,
I
so.
think everybody thought the other guy was coming and nobody came.
I was upset to find out it went down the way it did, as far as you feeling like, what is this? I don't blame you.
Well, I appreciate you coming tonight, though, it's very helpful.
Glad to be here.
Somebody that was in the meetings, I watched your meeting, after, in between our meeting and your meeting, I watched your meeting online, but it's always better to have someone that heard all the sidebar and all the, to be able to answer questions that weren't answered in the YouTube feed.
No, I totally agree. You want to feel like you got your questions answered and you're comfortable with what you might approve or might not approve. So it's just the process.
Okay,
Well, thanks a lot.
thanks.
And feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you for coming.
All righty, so now, hang on. So now we'll open up the public. You'll come forward, you'll state your name and your address. Please try to keep it to 5 minutes, just respect all of our time. If you can't do that, we'll work with you, but I don't want to be here all night, and I would like it to be relevant and new information from each speaker, not repeats of what we've already heard, if you don't mind.
By the way, for the record, I'm Craig Kaufman, Redevelopment Commission, 10381 Keith Road, Coal City, Indiana, 47427. Didn't want to miss that.
Thank you, Craig. All right.
Good evening. My name is Pam Rogers, 1411 Kelly Farm Place in Spencer, and thank you very much for taking this extra time to give this the due process it deserved. First of all, to the attorney, thank you very much, sir. Your explanation was excellent. But I want to refer to the resolution that is called 2016-2 and 1. These are the initial resolutions developed by the Redevelopment Commission. These resolutions that developed and identified what the EDA and EDP is for Owen County was passed in 2016. There have been no amendments to this. Our comprehensive plan was passed in 2022. So one question that I would put before the Plan Commission is when you approve, or what you decide to do with this motion before you, are you endorsing, because when they passed their plan, it was not relevant and related to the comprehensive plan that we have today. On page 173 of today's comprehensive plan, under Public Facilities and Services Goals, it states, an action item is to update and develop a capital improvement plan for the expansion of emergency services facilities, which I would think that law enforcement would fall under, based on the future land use map. And that is a key word that's used throughout the comprehensive plan and through these resolutions. The future land use map shows this particular parcel as being mineral. It has a different color coding. So I'm uncertain if when this commission approves this, are they also then stating that they have changed the land use map? If they say this conforms with the comprehensive plan, and it's very obvious that it does not, should the comprehensive plan or minor amendments be put in place first, only to prevent downstream impacts by other complaints or reversals because we didn't follow the correct policy and procedure? Another thing that is important for us to remember is the RDC Now, they state that there's one EDA. There are something that's called the TIF districts, and this was not really explained because within the economic development area, these are all assigned a TIF structure, so there's a tax financing process that's a part of that declaration of these redevelopment areas and this redevelopment plan. And there's been nothing mentioned to the Plan Commission about the scope and what that actually entails. Is if you expand this to another area and say, yes, we agree this meets the comprehensive plan, what does that mean for that other tax portion of what you are adopting? That has not been really explained. When you go through the comprehensive plan throughout the responsible parties, unfortunately, when this plan was written, the Economic Development Corporation had a very heavy hand in its development. Many of the, here is an action item, here is who needs to do this, they don't really align with what's being asked before the Plan Commission. So for instance, what I just read that says rely on the future land use map, this responsible party falls upon the Plan Commission, county commissioners, county council, and department heads. The RDC is not identified even as a party who would help to develop a potential plan for this land use. So I've only identified one of the many pages of the comprehensive plan. I'm for whatever we need to do in this county to make improvements and for growth. I'm not against that. All I'm asking is that we slow down and we make sure that when our comprehensive plan is saying that, hey, the Unified Development Ordinance will first be in place before we have the tools we need to know whether or not we can support growth, financing, appropriate land use. Once again, we're putting the cart before the horse. And is this something that we do need to make an amendment first to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row? Thank you. Did you have any questions for me before you leave?
I don't know, has anybody got any questions? I think Craig's got, was going to answer one of your questions, so Craig, if you would, please.
Ray Kaufman again. I'll let Dustin answer a lot of these questions, but I can address the question on the TIF. The two TIF zones that we have are strictly in the Highway 43 corridor. They're very specified in the area that they cover. What you're looking at here with the potential jail property will have no effect on that. There's no relation to those TIF zones. That would have to be designated as a special area to even have a TIF zone. To explain what the way the TIF zones work, those were designed for commercial development in that area. So any increase in property tax dollars would go into that zone to help encourage further development, like roadways, et cetera, in that area. Those two zones have a time clock on those. I can't remember what they are. They will eventually run out. But that's what they were designed for a specific purpose on that Highway 43 corridor. What you're considering today with the potential jail property has nothing to do with the TIF, and there's no relation at all between those. I at least wanted to address that.
All right, so this is not an extension of the TIF from 43 over to this area?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think it was, but
Good question,
it's a
though.
good question, yes. Okay.
I'll leave the rest to Dustin.
All right, well, thank you, Greg.
Yeah, and I guess the relationship between the future jail site and the economic development area is that the redevelopment commission is permitted to take actions that would in or serve the EDA, so in or serving that State Road Corridor 43 economic development area. And here, where the jail would serve the entirety of the county, it per se would serve the State Road 43 corridor EDA. So the acquisition of this site for the augmentation of the county's public safety infrastructure to serve the economic development area is kind of the attachment. And the only amendment that's being made to the economic development plan is identifying this parcel as an acquirable parcel by the redevelopment commission. And the resolution reaffirms all of the findings and the plan for the economic development area. So that the plan for the State Road 43 corridor area in terms of public infrastructure inside of the EDA, and the tax increment financing of that infrastructure or any incentives in that area would not be affected. There were a lot of things in there. Are there particular things that you have concerns about?
It's not a concern, it's a question, because I've heard it both ways, and people bend my ear all the time about these kind of things, as you can imagine. I'm sure you guys are in the same boat. The TIF that we're talking about, tax incremental funding,
Tax increment financing.
financing, okay. Has there been any of that money put toward extending sewer or water toward the Franklin, the property that we're talking about on 43 at this time? Is there any kind of plan there? I know there's talk of maybe extending it through Four Oaks into McCormick Creek School a little. You talked a little bit about that in your meeting, but I didn't hear anything about an extension out to the property that just got passed to you guys.
We were told that was going to cost over $9 million to
That
go
was the
down
number
to
I
the
heard.
Franklin, and to us, that's just not very feasible to get there. We're actually looking seriously at taking the sewer from Seven Oaks over to McCormick's Creek Elementary as a much more feasible project, because the school would partner with us. We would have some money we could put toward that. They're supposed to have a round 3 on these ready funds that we might be able to take advantage of. But that's what I call the low-hanging fruit that's probably more realistic, because that just seems to fit. Our next step there is going to be to talk with the owners of that property, which I understand is in an estate, to even see if they're open to that idea before we go any further. And the next step would be feasibility on the cost, and then getting the school involved. So that's probably where I see those funds being used next, as far as realistic.
Well, and that kind of veers off, which we shouldn't do, but that had been a question that was
It's a good
proposed to me by a
question.
couple of different folks, and
And that's right in the TIF zone.
I wanted to clear that up, just so that there's no misunderstandings on far as that goes. Go ahead, Bill.
And the discussion is whether to allow the transfer of that.
Right.
If anybody's been to that acreage on Franklin 43, there is maybe one buildable home site. The rest of it is just,
Mm-hmm.
there's no development to be done there. It's highest and best use is growth timber. You got it in the middle of the property, you got a landfill that you can't do anything with, you have to keep mowed. They're up along 43, there's only one building site that I can see on it. So it's not anything that's gonna be developed, because, unless you build one on the side of the mountain,
So-
it's rough.
Well, the question was proposed to me was, why would we spend money to extend?
Right, there's no reason, because there's nothing.
And
there.
it doesn't sound like there was any kind of plan, so.
And for those who are speaking against it, where else can we find sewer that close? I've looked.
Yeah.
you know,
We're running out of spots.
We're running out
You're
of
right.
spots, and anywhere we go, we're gonna have to spend several dollars to get it, to run the sewer.
Millions.
Millions.
Okay.
This is smart spending of our money.
And the council set it at 25 million, where they put the ceiling.
Well, our goal in looking at this potential site is to try to answer the hard questions, so we don't get there later and have regrets to say, oh, we should have done this. Oh, it's going to cost more to get sewer there than we thought. Oh, we got this problem. We're really trying to identify these up front.
All right, and the gotchas now are millions of dollars, not 1,000 here, 1,000 there. You're talking about one little mistake here, it costs millions.
We'd like
So,
to avoid
we'll Make
that.
sure we'd like, and obviously, we're not on that end of it, but we do have people that I don't answer to, talk to every day that have questions, and we'd like to have some kind of answer for them. And that was one I'd gotten at least 3 times in the last week, so I wanted that one cleared up.
Certainly.
But appreciate it. Okay, anybody else from public? Sam, you got something?
I just want to voice my support for RDC and Sheriff White. I've met with them. We've been after a jail site for, this is 14 years to build a jail. And I met with Sheriff White, and I understand where he's coming from. He's got a lot of concerns and needs and stuff like this. But adopting the resolution only, and I went, Mr. Meeks, is that okay? I had some good concerns, but I checked on his comments, and he's spot on. This doesn't tie your hands to nothing. This simply allocates redevelopment commission to move forward to to see, to check into stuff, to make sure this is going to be feasible, it's not going to be feasible, and at any time, it can be called off. Just because you pass the resolution or adopt a resolution does not tie the county's hands to the fact that this property has to be the property that they go with. So, you know, I'm in support of it because we've been after this, a jail for almost 14 years now. The second point I have to make, Ralph Rogers does have mental rights to the property. They do. They don't use them. They would have to come back to zoning to start the mental right. They do have it, because I asked that question to the owner of the property, why that they wouldn't get rid of the trailer and the weigh scales and stuff like that that's still sitting there. And he said because Ralph Rogers has leasing rights to the minerals if they would decide in the future to want to gravel again or quarry it again. It doesn't mean they're going to, and I know they've built houses around and stuff like that. It's probably not feasible for them to do. But according to the owner, they still have mineral rights to it, but they would have to get that rezoned again. That's,
Let me get around the room, Pam, and then we'll come back to you.
this is just to move forward
Right.
for redevelopment.
Right, and I know we're kind of straying off of what the meeting's about, but there's questions that I have and that the other folks have up here we'd like to have answered so that, because we're not paid to do these jobs, but people will ask the questions and I want to have an answer to give them. So, is that it, Sam?
Yeah, that's on it.
Yeah,
I would assume if this deal made, we would buy it fee simple, which means the mineral rights would come with it. We wouldn't want to buy it.
yeah, I
while
don't,
we're still
right, I don't think we'd want to leave the mineral rights in somebody else's hands. Then the only protection we would have for the county would be saying, no, we're not going to rezone it to that. But
Right,
That didn't work well for us last time.
no, it didn't. And we all know that mineral rights in Indiana is a touchy.
and there's other property around that they own. That we wouldn't have any real say.
But I'm saying that 9 acres.
That's
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
a,
yeah.
The mineral rights would go with it.
right, that's kind of an unknown though that needs to be hammered out. It'd be one of your hammered out deals.
And that's what Greg has been working on.
Right, and-
They are working on it.
And I think these guys, by the time we get to the point we're gonna be at, we're gonna know these answers. We just don't know them today.
Yes.
Beth, you got anything?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just have a couple things to add. One, that road out there isn't, it's an easement, it's owned by the Winders. And the property around it is also owned by Rogers, okay? And then the other thing I'm thinking is, and I know Sam had brought this up before, what would it cost to just buy it from Brett Franklin? As opposed to trading what we've got, if that's suitable for a timber farm for Brett Franklin, then it should be suitable for a timber farm for Owen County.
Hang on a second, Sam, let me get around the room. We'll come back to you on that one. You got anything else, Beth?
No, that's just some thoughts.
All right, Ryan or Mike, or Matt, sorry. Anything? Your hubby? Nicole, you got anything? All right, Pam, what did you ask?
Just real quick, when the comprehensive plan was passed, the zoning map that was attached to it did not show mineral as a separate zone category. The zoning map was changed after the comprehensive plan was passed. There's never been an ordinance to, in the language, it has shown mineral, but on the zoning map in 2022, it showed as agriculture, so all of the mineral properties actually at that time fell under the color category of agriculture, even though there was a language that said mineral, and that has already been submitted. But as long as, if you approve this resolution, as long as there's no commitment that you are guaranteeing that this property could be rezoned, and we'll pass rezoning because that requires a public hearing.
Yeah, we're not making that,
Right,
we're not
and-
making that promise.
And the land use, I mean, that would have to be addressed as maybe a finding of fact, because it does specifically throughout the comprehensive plan say land use is only for mineral. And that is just something that I don't know if you could incorporate into whatever decision you make tonight.
And I guess I would note, right, and I apologize, Mrs. Rogers, I didn't address this question in my original comments, that you're not exercising your authority under 3674 to affect the zoning or the local, the planning for this site at all by your decision tonight. And I guess what I would say to underscore that, right, is that when you look at the statutory structure and why the General Assembly has the Redevelopment Commission come to the Plan Commission for your thoughts, right, about their economic development and infrastructure plans. The Redevelopment Commission is a body that gets a fair number of sort of more flexible powers than most bodies in government. They're kind of intended by the General Assembly to be a big ideas kind of body, and they even get their ability to create little revenue streams that they can use to do big ideas. And the reason the Plan Commission gets the check is that your guys are the ones that think about the 100-year impact of big ideas, and you're the people that think about the whole county and how everybody in the choir has to sing together. And so you're not rezoning this parcel, right? But the Redevelopment Commission has to come and ask you whether their big idea is going to upset your whole thing, right? And this would be equally true, right? If the Redevelopment Commission decided that they wanted to, set up an allocation area and build a whole bunch of new infrastructure out in a particular direction away from town, and the Plan Commission sort of had very different plans for that area, right? They have to come and ask you because not every big idea that they have works with what you guys are going for, and you're the body that thinks about it in this sort of larger context, right? So the question is, here, the Redevelopment Commission has the idea to acquire this piece of property, and whether or not that upsets your broader plan for the county.
May I
But-
respond briefly to that? It's a legal question.
Yeah.
This is an advisory plan commission. The redevelopment commission is a county department. Can the advisory plan commission make that determination for the county department in this matter?
Yeah, so the statute, 36.7.14.16, provides that the Plan Commission, or if there is no Plan Commission, the body in charge of comprehensive planning for the unit, and here the unit is the county, and this is the Plan Commission for the county, and the Redevelopment Commission is a county department. They're both the county bodies legally. There is no other body that develops a comprehensive plan for the county for purposes of 36.7.14.16. This is that body. And so this body is the right body under that statutory authority to make the determination on whether or not your comprehensive plan is in harmony with the Redevelopment Commission's proposal.
So,
I'll quickly respond. So we do have, just for clarification, we have municipalities that do have redevelopment commissions and their own comprehensive plans.
Right.
This is an advisory plan commission that does not encompass all portions of the county. They don't have that jurisdiction. So the redevelopment commission does have jurisdiction over the entire county, correct?
No. Their jurisdiction is limited to the areas where there is not a municipality that has a redevelopment commission.
and since we're outside of this town limits there, I'm assuming we would be the body that was oversees that. And like I said, the biggest thing for me was I don't want to give it a blanket rezone along with this document. It doesn't sound like that's where we're at all.
No, and
So
this.
that helps a lot. Sam, you had something else, what was it?
Answer the question.
Okay, all right. Okay, with no other public comments, I'm going to move to, we don't really have a staff report, I'm assuming? Okay,
May I say something?
sure.
That thing moved to the timber farm.
Yeah.
If that is owned by Franklin, even if he put it in forest, reserve classified forest, it's still gonna pay some taxes. It's gonna grow the same amount of timber whether he owns it or not, we're having to maintain that cap on that. He would have to do that. That would take the burden off of us. I don't think you can put the landfill in forest reserve. I think it's got to stay.
It can go in forest reserve. The new category is, there's a wildlife, so the conservation program is forestry and wild, so they can let it, it can be mowed as long as it does qualify.
But even if you did, it would still pay some taxes or something.
In this county, it's 0.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Yeah.
I abstained last week based on the fact that it just seemed like it's a rushed process. Just a bad look. I talk to people countywide, corruption comes out of their mouth over and over and over again. The perception of corruption just as bad as corruption. Because it's just, when people look at things that are just rushed through, just it's a bad look. We gotta slow down these kind of things, and so we could maybe break that stigma one of these days and squash that stereotype, because that's what a lot of people see when they talk about county government. It's corruption, and whether it exists or not, the perception's there. There's been enough things in the past to make people question everything they see that happens these days. So I just caution us on things like this when we try to back to back. It passed RDC at 3 o'clock at the latest, and it was on our table at 6:30. It just looked bad on the surface.
Well, I definitely think tonight was a good idea.
I agree with that.
I know infinitely more than I did when I walked in here last Tuesday.
Yeah, because last week was kind of confusing.
Yeah, we're not changing that thing, we're just giving authority to do this and stuff, we're not changing zoning, nothing. And it, like Sam says, this jail project's been going on for 14 years, everybody's getting accused of kicking it down the road or something. Folks, we do not want the government to step in and say, we have to build this jail, we have to do this, and they take control. And if we go too long, that will happen. And we'll be sorry. We will really be sorry.
If anybody ever did a walkthrough on the jail, they'd know why we needed it.
Yes, sir.
I did the walkthrough when I was just not on board.
I've done the walkthrough,
It's creepy.
nothing against the sheriff, but I wasn't impressed. It's something to behold. Sam's been down there a lot.
Hard to make a silk purse out of a
Yeah,
sow's.
I think everyone,
It was good in this days and it's outgrown its use.
I think anyone that would go down there would see what we're talking about. So with that being said, looking for a motion.
No, and I'll say, I voted no last week for some of the same reasons Chad talked about. And I think the week that we've had to think about things and people coming here tonight and answering questions, and it was a big concern of mine last week, but really didn't get quite the answer I wanted as far as the zoning was concerned. So there'll be another hearing, and it's not something that we've set in concrete tonight. So,
Right.
So I wanted to make those things clear tonight to everyone and to understand those things completely. So to make a decision last week just wasn't there for me to say
Little
yes.
premature. Well, and I would hope that people understand that we wanted to vet it another week, regardless of whether
Yeah,
it was.
transparency is always the
Right,
best
if it was
policy.
unpopular and then it was unpopular, but rather than misstep, sometimes you gotta slow down and vet things properly.
And to understand their process and a little
Right.
bit better, and to
Yeah, I
know
mean,
the vetting's going to be there.
I really
is
appreciate-
More reassuring.
Craig and Mr. Meeks coming tonight, that really helped. I mean, questions that I have walking in here now I have answers to, so, okay. Anybody else got anything? And if not, I will entertain a motion of some type.
Who seconded it?
Nobody's made a motion yet.
You made it.
Did you make a motion?
No, I didn't make one.
No, he was just
I
talking
will make
about
a motion to
overall.
approve. I made the motion last week.
Okay, so we got a motion by Bill Purcell.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Donna. Show of hands, all in favor of approving this? Chad, you got your, okay. All right, 7-0. All right, hang on, Pam. do we have to make any kind of, or 8 of them, okay, well, I can't count. Do we have to make any kind of motion for signing it or
The only thing
anything?
we might need some resolution number, I don't think he give it.
Yeah, so what is it?
24001.
So an amendment to your motion to add the resolution number, 2024-01? All right. So that's approved. Do we need a motion for, who has to sign this thing? Is it
You have to,
is it just me?
the secretary tests.
Okay.
You sign it as-
And then I sign it, so no one else here has to need to sign it? We don't need a motion on that?
You've approved it, so.
Okay, good enough. All right, just making sure. Okay. Well, we've already taken public comment, but I will open it up for very quickly if anybody's got anything else. Anybody? No? Okay. We have no staff report, I'm assuming? Plan commission comments, everybody good? Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn is on the table, seconded by Bill, and we are adjourned.